Thank you for staying with us on the Pulse. Like Aisha said, this is a special edition where we are looking at the fallout and at the different strands of the issue that is the Ghana Football Association, as some would put it, in crisis. The Football Association has just heard in the past hour that its president, Nyantakyi, has been given a ban by FIFA, and that ban will last provisionally for 90 days. We'll look at what it means. However, the FIFA statement, which you can see right now, says that football official Kwesi Nyantakyi has been banned from all football activities for 90 days by the Independent Ethics Committee. The chairperson of the adjudicatory chamber of the Ethics Committee has provisionally banned the president of the GFA and FIFA Council member, Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi, for a duration of 90 days. The duration of the ban may be extended for an additional period not exceeding 45 days. During this time, Mr. Nyantakyi is banned from all football activities at both national and international level, administrative, sports, or any other. The ban comes into force immediately. The decision was taken upon the request of the chairperson of the investigatory chamber of the Ethics Committee carrying out the formal investigation proceedings into Mr. Nyantakyi, pursuant to Article 83, Paragraph 1 and Article 4, Paragraph 2 of the FIFA Code of Ethics. So that is the latest in this issue that we've got. In studio with me, we've got a sports lawyer, thankfully, to break it down for us. He is Selassie Adika. Thank you for joining us, Selassie.
Thank you.
Yes. By way of background about his weight and locus and his appropriateness for this football discussion, he is the lawyer who represented Tema Youth, that is a Ghana Premier League team, or formerly a Ghana Premier League team, at the Court of Arbitration for Sports, that is sports' highest decision-making body, recently when they had an issue with the Ghana Football Association. So he is qualified to talk about that. And also to my immediate left is lawyer John Kwesi, who is also the General Secretary of the Coaches Association of Ghana. Also by way of introduction, and to give us an idea of why he needs to be here, he also contested Kwesi Nyantakyi recently at an election. So they are in interesting positions to talk to us about that. Selassie, what do you make of the statement that FIFA released? What does it tell us?
Well, I think one thing that we need to not overlook is the fact that it's a provisional ban, and it is also in line with the dictates of Article 83, and which provides that in instances where, first of all, the FIFA Ethics Committee is broken down to the investigatory and the adjudicatory chamber, and whenever someone or on its own, in Latin is sua sponte, on its own, if they find evidence or they become privy of any information that one of the officials or someone who is bound by the FIFA Code of Ethics has possibly violated any of its articles, it can start an investigation. And in this case, we've heard in the public domain that Anas has perhaps sent some information.
He has confirmed this himself. Kweku Baku has also confirmed that.
Okay, and we also learned in the Amos Adamu case that oftentimes when the information comes into the public domain, FIFA is deemed to be on notice and they begin an investigation. And once the part of the ethics committee that is responsible for this exercise is the investigative chamber. So they will begin looking at what evidence has been obtained, and what they will be trying to do is look to see if there is a prima facie case. If there's a prima facie case, then the case will be referred to the adjudicatory chamber.
Right.
However, as we see per the dictates of Article 83, when two conditions exist, if it is apparent that certain articles of the FIFA Code of Ethics have been specifically breached, if it appears, because it is important to note that FIFA has an absolute right to be heard. So he's going to have the opportunity to confront any allegations that have been made against him. But once the investigative chamber begins doing its work and it finds that perhaps some articles have been breached and that the investigation is going to take a long time to conclude, they may now, under the dictates of Article 83, impose a provisional measure, which we have seen in this case. And I think it is important to note that this throws what we have been hearing into a loop a little bit, because now it looks like FIFA by doing so, has told us that they've started investigations.
Yeah. So just to put everything he has said into perspective, the statement we saw is provisional, first of all. What the lawyer has also told us is that the FIFA Ethics Committee is made up of two arms, the investigatory chamber and then the adjudicatory chamber. So the statement we have seen, if we can see it on the screen again, was issued by the investigatory chamber. And per the lawyer's education, the investigatory chamber does not work like, you know, some of our institutions here where you need somebody to go and report a case to the police before they start working, so that the FIFA Ethics Committee have their eye everywhere. And once the information has become public information, they will start acting on their own. They don't wait for anybody. Am I right?
In legal terms.
In legal terms.
They're acting so moto.
Yes.
They have the powers to begin investigation by themselves.
So again, there are some keywords I would like us to look at there. It says the chairperson of the adjudicatory chamber has provisionally. So the provisionally, what does it mean?
It's an interim measure.
Okay.
See, the concern here is that we have a very powerful federation president who is also a FIFA official, who is superintending an organization while he is going to be under an investigation. So I think the concern there would be whether it is appropriate. Is the investigation going to be tainted? Which is what I think is the reason why maybe government sought an intervention, perhaps.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying that with FIFA taking this, it removes him from superintending an organization.
Yeah.
And I suspect that if you look at the FIFA Code of Ethics, in some instances, some misconduct will be deemed a national issue. So they will refer the matter back.
Yeah.
So I'm suspecting that now that they have removed him, perhaps they might kick whatever issues are there back. Even though they still have jurisdiction, it is their sole province once an official is in violation. However, they do have the authority to delegate to the National Association if it is economical to deal with.
Let me break it down. What you are saying in layman's terms is that it is possible that the government and FIFA have been communicating on this, which is why yesterday's action by the government to announce steps to be taken to dissolve the GFA has been immediately followed by this. Is it possible that what we are hearing, that the government says they are in close association with FIFA, communication with FIFA, is true? It's possible.
Absolutely, because we have also seen that. You know, I'll let my
okay,
senior.
sure. By way of assistance, I think that is rightly so, because government, in a way, the way a manner they went about it yesterday, there's every indication to show that government wasn't working in vacuum. Okay, there might have been some consultation here and there. Yeah. So obviously, government is in touch with FIFA.
Yeah.
And then maybe CAF. When the minister was announcing that maybe on Joy yesterday, he made mention that they will go back to CAF, they will go back to FIFA and all that. So some way, somehow, I mean, there is that communication going on. But you didn't tell us when this suspension thing, or
when it
the
is.
FIFA, yes. When did it come? When did you receive a copy?
No, I said
the FIFA. Today
it came in the last hour and a half.
Obviously.
Hour and a half. And it says it comes into force immediately. Yes. So that's Kwesi Nyantakyi you see on the screen there. He is in Ghana. He is currently in a meeting, we understand, at the somewhere around the Roman Ridge area of Accra with his executive committee. They are meeting to deliberate on all the issues that have taken place. What they want to do is to look at what response the organization would give to everything. Of interest also, and we will touch that later, is the fact that they will take a decision as to whether Kwesi Nyantakyi will step aside from the GFA level or not. That's what we knew this morning. But with this, and please educate me, with this FIFA statement, it means that they don't even need to do that. Exactly. FIFA has done that for them.
Absolutely.
Nyantakyi, as it is now, and correct me if I'm wrong, he ceases to be president of the GFA as of now.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's what it means.
Yeah, because FIFA is the mother body. So if the mother body, the apex body is telling you to step aside, you have no, I mean, the locus back at home. Yeah, you understand. And he's a lawyer, he needs to understand some of these basic things so that people will not continue mentioning his names always for the bad reason, because it was long overdue. Everybody was appealing to him.
We'll come to the appropriateness of his actions or inactions thereof. However, let's set the tone for the discussion, because the government is the one key giant piece of this jigsaw puzzle. And let's hear from, or let's see, the Sports Minister Isaac Esiama telling us about the suspension by government. Let's see some information about that as well. He spoke on Joy FM, and he says about the statement government issued that per the statement, the Ghana Football Association has been dissolved. Kwesi Nyantakyi and all implicated members of the FA Executive Committee will be investigated and will be dealt with to the full extent of the law. That's what he says. Lawyer, Selassie, I see you shaking your head. Why are you shaking your head about what the minister said? He said this has been dissolved. Please confirm for us, has the GFA been dissolved as we speak?
Well, I'm in no position to answer that factually. However, I can provide, or at least attempt to provide, a legal answer.
Sure.
Which is the reason why I was shaking my head. and my senior is here to to complement what
I'll take yours, and then I'll take his perspective on other issues as well.
Okay. When you talk about dissolving first of all, it is accepted that the GFA is a private company limited by guarantee, and which means it is its conduct or its formation or dissolution issues are governed by the company's code. So that is the appropriate place to look to see if one of the conditions under which a company can be dissolved is applicable. And in this case, to see that the president has ordered that a private company be dissolved, I believe would cause some apprehension in every lawyer. And so, that is the issue that raises. Beyond that, I think we haven't heard from the president. Dissolving a company, if you look at the law books, is not something that will happen instanta.
Sure.
It's something that is a process. And we've also seen a competing statement that says that to begin the process of dissolution. That is more in line with what is in actual practice. However, the question still remains whether the president has the power to dissolve a private company. And that would lead us into looking at different laws, emergency powers. And because the president has not come out categorically to state the legal basis for doing so, I would pause at this moment and not comment on that.
Right. So we have been at pains to explain the point that the lawyer just made since this morning, especially considering that the sports minister was the one who we were looking for clarification on the letter. Lawyer Selassie alludes to a letter that was sent around 3 o'clock yesterday, about 24 hours ago, and the statement was signed by the Information Minister, Mustafa Hamid. That statement said that the government is taking steps to dissolve the Ghana Football Association. And so that statement was at variance with what we just saw on the slide there by Minister Isaac Esiama as well. So this was Mustafa Hamid's statement. He says the conduct of all officials of the GFA, together with that of the suspended acting director of the National Sports Authority, Robert Safo Mensah, shown in the documentary to be involved in questionable, potentially criminal acts, is forthwith referred to the police for further investigation and appropriate action. The police are to take all such relevant measures as are necessary to ensure that the contents of the documentary are rapidly and thoroughly investigated. So, having regard to the widespread nature of the apparent rot involving top GFA officials, the statement goes on, top National Sports Authority officials, match commissioners, football administrators and referees, government has decided to take immediate steps to have the GFA dissolved. And that's the part that differs from Isaac Esiama's deadpan statement that it has been dissolved. Government will shortly thereafter announce provisional measures to govern football activity in the country until a new body is duly formed. The last part says, government will communicate these decisions to the Confederation of African Football and the Federation of International Football Associations and engage with them on these developments to chart a new way forward for Ghana football. Government will see to it that the necessary reforms are urgently undertaken to sanitize football administration in the country. So let me come to you, Lawyer John Kwesi.
Yeah.
We have established that, you know, what Mustafa Hamid, but usually what we see on a statement that is signed will have more weight,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Just for the benefit of
exactly
those
what
who are
I
watching.
want to put across. We have a written statement coming from an official of government.
Sure.
And mostly, when we want to go by formal way of communication, the acceptable means is a well-written, documented evidence. To the point that even if it's not on letterhead, the public will still not accept it properly, so to speak. What came out of the ministry through the minister? The minister is also the set man when it talks about football in Ghana here. But some of us, because we are closer and from within, we've done some backdoor checks. And the feedback we are having is that the written document is the one that is at the moment. But we shouldn't also immediately get on the nerves of the minister and try to bastardize him here and there, because he was also trying to represent the situation. The earlier statement says steps were being taken.
Yes.
Maybe among the steps, okay, was to ensure that we have the GFA dissolved, as the written statement rightly stated.
Sure.
But he came out quicker than maybe expected.
Yeah.
Let's give the government the benefit of the doubt. In essence, the entire populace, okay, or majority of Ghanaian citizens, what they are looking for is that an era must be phased out, and then a new dawn of everything should be started from our football governing body. And that is what people want.
Yeah.
Whether you are following the law or you are not following the law, at this point in time, is immaterial.
Yeah.
But I'm
No,
sure.
but is it?
No, no.
No, you mean
I'm
from
coming
the
for the
people's
first for the first step.
Yeah.
From the
People's perspective.
yes, they don't care
Yeah.
whether we use the right means or not. The most important thing is we don't want to see the man. And with that, FIFA has even done it better for Ghanaians. Maybe this letter from FIFA should have come earlier, okay, than anticipated. But whether the government came out first or FIFA coming, the most important thing is that at the end of the day, majority do not want to see Mr. Nyantakyi and some other officials of football at the GFA.
Yeah.
Let's give the government the benefit of the doubt. It's early days yet. Maybe today, tomorrow, up to next week, and let's see what the government will put in place.
You are still watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel. It's a special edition where we are putting all the issues from the fallout of Anas Arimia Anas's expose number 12, when corruption and greed becomes the norm, into perspective. We have established that Kwesi Nyantakyi's ban of 90 days is provisional. We have also established that after the 90 days, if the issues are not thoroughly rinsed by FIFA's investigatory chamber, he'll be given an additional 45 days for which all the issues must be looked at. We have also seen that the sports minister has, given us an indication that the dissolution of the GFA will be done, even though he seemed to have moved a few steps ahead of the statement by Mustafa Hamid that was signed. Also coming up, just to let you know, we'll be looking at what all this really means for the average football person, the club official, the football player in the Ghana Premier League, and in all the other competitions. We'll also be looking at the angle of the police investigations. We'll be looking at Parliament, who have asked for a probe and have actually set up, we understand, a 7-member committee to look into the happenings. We look at why this is important, because I know most of you have been asking, if Anas has already brought the evidence and we have seen it on TV, why is Parliament again asking for another investigation? We'll look at that. We hear from, we look at Mustafa Hamid, the Information Minister. We check out the club's reaction, like I said, Adriana Stars. As you know, there are existing deals with the Ghana Football Association as we speak, one of which is MTN, who have a sponsorship of the FA Cup, which is the flagship cup competition of the GFA. What does it mean for them? We look at Xylophone Cash as well, who have an existing deal that was signed recently to be the headline sponsor of the Ghana Premier League. What does it mean for them as well? And of course, we'll be taking an interactive look as we have a lot of comments on your Facebook and Twitter as well. You can watch on Facebook, that's on Joy News. This is The Pulse. Now, the other issue that we'd like to put in perspective is precedent. Has this happened elsewhere before? And on the line, I'd like to speak to a Nigerian colleague Nigerian journalist, Kingsley Umtiti. Hello, Kingsley. Thank you for joining us.
My great pleasure. How are you doing?
We are doing well, thank you. As our cousin in the West African sub-region, we defer to you Nigerians on most issues. And it's great that something like what is happening in Ghana has already happened in Nigeria. Give us a sense of how Nigeria was banned by FIFA, but what went into that in 2014, please.
Well, thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to speak to you from Channel Television here in Lagos, Nigeria. I would start by saying that when that happened, we had actually experienced this before you, so I'll be speaking from a position of experience to say that the first thing that hit us was that of shock and disbelief that this could happen to Nigeria. The second thing was, what do we do at this moment? But don't forget that there's always a time when people have to go down the valley and perhaps go also to the mountain top. We have gone through our own valley. I think Ghana is going through its own valley in football at this moment. When we had that experience, to so many people, that was the end of football administration and football generally in Nigeria. But some people also sat back to say, hey, listen, this is a challenge. It is what it is. So how do we get out of this? You just can't sit down in the valley and begin to bemoan what has befallen you without having a clearer view of what could happen. How do we get out of this? And so, being resilient people, our football administrators, in fact, governments and ordinary people thought that, yes, we've gone through this, so how do we get out of it? Committees were formed, blames were made, corporates were called out, and but we had the resilience to succeed. And so committees were set up, investigations were made, those who were guilty were called out, and then, of course, we decided to put our house in order.
Sure.
Because FIFA will always demand that you fight your own battle, you sort out your own, problems. But the question is, are you willing to bite the bullet? That is the question. So if the Ghanaian FA, if the Ghanaian people, the sports clubs are able to look at all of these and say, we've made a mistake, we've messed up, that is a fact. But how do we have a rebound, as they would say in basketball? That, for me, was what we did. And that was why Nigeria got out of that situation and then decided to rebuild gradually. We are not there yet. It's a long journey to rebuilding, but we believe that we will eventually rebuild and get to how Nigeria used to be in the sporting world and in football. And I think that's the greatest challenge for the for the Ghanaian FA, to pull yourself by the bootstrap and project.
Kingsley,
I'd like to say that.
Yes. You've spoken eloquently about the struggles there, but because we have not even reached 1% of the struggles that you faced in the time that Nigeria were banned, we'd like to understand a few things. We know that a Nigerian high court was involved in this. And just like we have heard from our guests who are lawyers here in Ghana, before the government can dissolve the Ghana Football Association, which in our case is a company limited by guarantee, they have to either go through our Attorney General, that's the Attorney General of Ghana, or through the Registrar General. In the case of Nigeria, how did they go about it? Did they just, stop the FA from working, or they went through the legal means? I think we lost Kingsley there as well. So let me come to you on that issue. If the government, right now, I was going to ask him, but if the government want to ban or want to dissolve the GFA, what do you think they would, what are the remedies? What are the remedies from the
Okay.
Attorney General side and from the Registrar General side?
I think it's just a choice of words. Okay. The government can backtrack, though they have indicated the intention of doing so appropriately. The advice to the government is that they should desist from even using the word dissolution. Yes, there are so many ways of trying to achieve the same thing without necessarily
what would you
going by
advise?
the word. Government's intervention, that's all. It will end everything.
So the statement should have said,
yes,
government is moving to intervene. But please
which is
correct me if I'm
different
wrong.
from interfering. Are you getting
yes,
it? Yes,
government intervention and interference.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we don't need dissolution because the GFA will still be in existence.
Yes.
Are you getting it? So the word, the diction wasn't
So if you had written that
appropriately.
statement, you would not have used...
Not at all. Why do you say dissolution? If you are dissolving, it means the thing will not be there in the first place.
Sure.
And then it's a very long and convoluted process to get it back again. I am happy. I am happy again that they haven't gone ahead in implementing it.
Sure.
Let's take it that we have written document. That's what we are working with. The minister, out of enthusiasm, out of euphoria, passion, and whatever, okay, came out to use the word dissolution. Government are also planning in doing something like that. But in reality, we don't have, and we are not going to have anything like dissolution. So government's intervention, that's all. And when you're a government, you only intervene in whichever sector that you find yourself in. Then the steps will follow. In fact, what they want to do is an intervention because they want to put in place some measures to ensure that they sanitize the system. Okay? So moving forward, my advice is that from today we shouldn't use the word dissolution. And then the government can continue with the intervention. And then they set up the that will include setting up committees, taking some people out of post. You see, mind you, the GFA was set up by the government itself. It wasn't set up by individuals.
Yeah.
At the time, Kwame Nkrumah played major and key role in football. In fact, he recruited the chairman to handle football, who the coach should be, and so on and so forth. And administrators all the way from 1957, okay, have told in that direction. In fact, under the regime of only President Nyantakyi, the government had always gotten a say in who becomes the president of the GFA, who goes to CAF, who goes to FIFA, and so on and so forth. It has always remained the property of the president, the country. Okay, so nothing really has changed, just that in the regime of Mr. Nyantakyi, some way, somehow, the laws were changed. And unfortunately, this is where the changes brought about by Mr. Nyantakyi himself, okay, has led it into.
We'll come to that. You want to make an input?
Yes, and rightfully so. I agree with Lawyer Question's assertion that we need to refrain from the use of dissolution and perhaps look at intervention, because if you look at FIFA's law itself, that prohibits this sort of activity from the government, it has been changed. You know, they've inserted the word undue influence, and while on this topic, I think it's important to look at the history behind, you know, this FIFA, what is known as FIFA's non-intervention policy. It is enshrined in Articles 14 and 19 of the FIFA statutes. Article 14 basically says that the national associations should be independent. That is the word.
Sure.
And then it references Article 19, which talks about which says that the associations should run and manage their affairs independent of any undue influence from third parties. And in practice, it's always the third party has not been the fans. It hasn't been sponsors. Though they've always been welcome around association football.
It's always government.
It's always government, and it always manifests itself in an attempt to remove the head of the FA. And it's also important to know the history behind. It's also important to know the history behind this FIFA non-intervention policy. I believe if you look at the history of when it has been applied, you can tell it's a political tool by which FIFA was keeping all the associations in line.
Sure.
When it's by use of funding. So they will fund the associations, and as we know, it's when it comes to voting in FIFA, it's one country, one vote. So every country in Africa is very powerful, and they form voting blocks. And so it was a methodology by which when Sepp Blatter has a point man at an FA, he wanted to keep that person there and not change that person.
Sure.
And also, because it's a private organization, they were funding them, and because the money was not coming from the government, and because we have weak infrastructure when it comes to money laundering and corruption, the government found it very difficult to figure out what was being done with the money,
sure.
which is what you hear in our country, where people say it is our own organization, we don't need to account to anybody. But we've seen a great shift from that since Sepp Blatter was removed. We've seen that FIFA is moving more towards establishing its integrity and transparency. So and then we see this insertion of this word undue in front of influence. It's always been influence. If you look at the 2012 edition and the 2016 edition, you notice that change. And so in our practice area, the question is, what is that going to mean? You know, how much interference is going to be acceptable?
Yeah.
And now that FIFA is on a quest to clean up the game, would they allow governments to investigate?
And I'm coming to that because the point he raises is very, very interesting, because it's been at the heart of the discussion, because a lot of people have been asking, are we going to get a FIFA ban? And then the answer you get is that if FIFA look at what government has in terms of evidence, and government the announced documentary goes to FIFA, they will then decide whether what government has done is due or undue influence, or due or undue intervention. So it's very key, and a lot of people that you speak to are hoping that Ghana will not be banned, but actually FIFA will come in and then try and give us, you know, a helping hand rather than a ban. Let's start getting the reactions. We'll go to social media, get reactions, but first we hear from Kwabna Yeboah, the Sports Writers Association of Ghana president.
I guess the government took that decision as a follow-up to the announced expose, which has really irked and irritated a lot of Ghanaians. There's so much indignation in the system, and the decision will sit very well with the overwhelming majority of Ghanaians who have been very, very, very angered and exasperated about the rot and filth in the system. So from that emotional and sentimental viewpoint, a lot of Ghanaians would be very satisfied. But I guess we have to look at the bigger picture. And that bigger picture is that there is zero tolerance from the FIFA level for any government interference. So I would have thought that there would have been a plan B. I thought by now the stakeholders, particularly the clubs, would have been engaged, and immediately an interim body set up by the clubs to serve as an interim body to serve a roadmap moving forward. But as we speak, I do not think that I have been told about any plan B. There is a big vacuum. We don't know what is going to happen. What it means is that the weekend matches, for instance, cannot proceed. Club, I do not have any information which suggests that the clubs have been involved. But whatever it is, I thought that by now the clubs would have been involved, and the interim body said from their own membership to set a roadmap moving forward.
That's Kwabna Yeboah speaking there. We'll now look at the implications of this decision by government to move to dissolve the Ghana Football Association. And also, we want to clear a couple of misconceptions. But first of all, if a dissolution happens, nobody at the GFA can occupy any position, because technically the GFA will not exist as an entity. And in essence, all the people at the GFA will be jobless, because you can't work for something that doesn't exist. Secondly, all GFA officials occupying positions at international level will not do so anymore. So from Kwesi Nyantakyi on the FIFA Council to any member on any sub-regional committee, all such appointments will have no legal legs to stand on. If World Football Governing Body was one before that. So just a quick technical issue. If the dissolution happens, nobody at the GFA. So you are trying to say that that includes people like Tony Bafo, Ibrahim Sanidara. All of them will not have a job. George Free, because they all went on the ticket of the GFA, right? Yeah. So if World Football Governing Body FIFA check and the reason for government interference are valid, they could actually assist Ghana to go through a road map. However, there will be a FIFA ban. That's for certain. Is that accurate? Maybe.
Well, it depends on whether they find the interference justified and what the justification means undue. And I think this is going to be a good test case.
With the new reforms, it's not that automatic. Okay, they have to weigh the issues and then find out whether indeed a ban is necessary for you. But in the test case of Ghana, I don't envisage FIFA banning Ghana anytime soon, because what has happened is something that FIFA should be applauding Ghana. Okay.
They should be applauding.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of countries don't do that.
FIFA is now strict and doesn't want to be associated with corruption and other things. So if a country, and Tango Anna is a national of Ghana, okay, so from within we've taken steps.
We have done our own work.
Yes, exactly.
We have done FIFA's work for them.
FIFA should be doing that where we have done it for them. But just that as a government, you don't need to stay, okay, further. You take some drastic measures whilst you are waiting. And mind you, the minister rightly indicated that they are going to consult FIFA they are going to consult CAF and all that. Just that the country has also gone to that extreme.
Sure.
Okay, to using that dissolution thing that I said, we should try and assist the government
rather than. All right. So let's do more of the implications. We've seen some of them. So if FIFA check and the reasons we've done this one are valid, they could actually assist Ghana to go through a roadmap. I'll be asking the lawyers what kind of roadmap, assuming FIFA don't ban us, can they help us with? And if a dissolution of the GFA happens, nobody at the GFA can occupy any position, because technically the GFA, that's the first one. We've seen this one already. So a dissolution of the GFA means all national teams cannot take part in any FIFA and CAF sanctioned competitions. And this is where, a lot of people who have not done anything wrong are going to suffer, because if the dissolution had happened yesterday morning, it means that Ghana may not have been able to play against Iceland, maybe. Yeah. It means that the under-20 women's national team who are going to France to play in the Women's World Cup cannot play in August. It means that Ghana cannot host the African Cup of Nations for women that it plans to in November. It means that the under-17 women's team that are going to Uruguay for under-17 World Cup, that they have sweat or that they have had to sweat for, cannot play. It means that the Diana Stars who are in the CAF Confederations Cup cannot play again. It means that anybody who is going on the ticket of Ghana to any international competition cannot play at all. And that is really, really sad for them indeed. So those are some of the implications we have seen there as well. Now, if you look at these implications, do you think that, like a lot of people say, the FIFA ban, if it happens, will be worth the effort by the government?
I think that's what I think that the threat of the FIFA ban and the public's
fear.
I wouldn't say there's a fear of that currently.
People don't fear.
People are actually embracing it, and that is what is very interesting, because it is the bite of the threat of the ban that has enabled FIFA to be able to keep, government out of Football Association business. And if you study the history of this FIFA non-intervention policy, and scholars in the area of sports law have written about it in recent times, and I can share some of that with you. But they actually conducted a study of all the countries, actually starting in 1990, it's the first time we see that in Greece. Greece had just qualified for the World Cup after so many years of non-qualification. And then there was some political turmoil that spilled over into their football administration, and the government interfered. And so there was a period of time, I think there was 2 months left before the World Cup, and the whole public, there was a public outcry. and there were elections scheduled for the next year. so the government was stuck between choosing an anti-corruption agenda or pacifying the fans, the football-loving fans,
wanted to go to the World Cup,
who are also the constituents come election time. So that's where we first see the bite of the FIFA non-intervention policy and the threat of the ban. I think any scholar who looks at what is going on now would agree with me that this is the direct opposite. And I think we also need to give some credit to ANAS. We also need to give some credit to FIFA, because I think there's been a paradigm shift where people kind of feel like, you know what, we've looked around the world and we see normalization committees all over the world. We've seen it in Cameroon. We've seen it in Nigeria. So I think people are Sudan,
lots of places.
So I think people are almost fed up. They want to see things change. And so interestingly, you see that, you know, there is more of an embrace of the threat of the ban.
Yeah. So just one misconception that we want to highlight here. Some people on Facebook, and I'll be showing you some of the comments, have been saying that, or have been asking, if the provisional ban on Kwesi Nyantakyi means that, because you saw in the statement that it means that he won't take part in all national and international football activities. And some people say that, so if you see Kwesi Nyantakyi playing four corners, does it mean that he can't play? Is that what it means? It doesn't mean that he can't even watch football.
No.
Or does it mean that he can't go to a stadium?
No, mostly they are talking about FIFA sanctioned programs, usually competitive programs. So like Kotoko had, they come under FIFA organizers and leagues and so on.
So he can't go there?
Yes,
for 90 days.
Exactly.
But he can watch the World Cup in his room.
That is if he's in. Nobody will go there to monitor him. But then publicly, don't come closer to anything that is football and is related to FIFA and so on and so forth. Back to the question that you were asking, the euphoria, the energy people put in the excitement. Everybody was even welcoming any ban coming from FIFA.
They wanted to.
They want a ban. Are you getting it? The whole essence is that here is a man who has been advised variously to step aside, step down, do whatever. And then the indications are that we are not going to see the light anytime soon. But I think Ghanaians should know what actually brought the cameras back was the fuss between Mr. Nyantakyi and then Georgia Free. That is all. Because the understanding of Ghanaians was that fight for me. You know, I had started the fight there when they thought the GFA was a mafia organization and nobody could contest him and so on and so forth. I did my best. Unfortunately, some element within the judiciary, I don't want to go further.
Sure.
Okay? At the end of the day, some positions and so on and so forth. It's something we don't talk about now. But then, eventually, the man had his way. Okay? Now he gets CAF, he gets FIFA. And the indications were that once I get to CAF, once I get to FIFA, then I'm going to leave
the GFA position.
The GFA for you Ghanaians. You are football-loving people, so take your football. Now you get all this, you get the blessings of Ghanaians. You come, Ghanaians come to welcome you at the airport, thinking that after 1 week, 2 weeks, the man is going to say bye-bye to Ghana football. And now one man comes, hey, nothing. 2 months comes, nothing. And then after a whole period, then it turned into a whole argument altogether. Is the man going to contest or not to contest? And then every day your sports program, this is the argument.
Sure.
The man too is in Ghana, he doesn't want to talk.
Yeah.
Master, come and talk. You spoke before, you say you won't contest again, but this is your body language and so on and so forth. So it became like, if you want to do anything, then they will use this
FIFA ban threat.
Not even FIFA ban. There are cake laws. You understand that if you want to remove me from office, the GFA constitution says you can't do it unless we go to Congress, unless this person A, B, C, and these A, B, C personalities who will go and either to change the laws are people that are also perceived to be this time this in the pocket. Are you getting it? In the pocket of this personality. So Ghanaian, the ordinary citizens were worried. Are we still going to sit and see the man we want out of the system still coming back into power? You see? So at a point in time, then there was thinking that if that is the case, The only thing that can change the status quo when we want to talk about the law is what we refer to as a revolution. When revolution comes, what it does is, in legal jurisprudence, we call it ground norm. Okay, it changes the fundamental law that gives you, yes, that gives you the grounding to clothe yourself with. Okay, that legal, you know, it favors you, so you keep it. You are still using the laws, but then against the sensibilities and the wishes of the people that you govern.
Yeah.
So when society wants to change the system, then they wipe out the whole system. So in law, we say the ground norm ceases to exist. And that is the basis for revolution all along.
Before I'll come to you, Selassie, but quick one. Do you think Kwesi Nyantakyi underestimated the power of the people?
Oh, exactly so. Exactly so. And what didn't also help matters is that there is this awareness and perception that I feel the man buying our ban. You see?
That his government is in power. And when people watch the video, they seem to get, because you see a lot of allusions to.
So, and Ghanaians were worried. Hey, so this man has rightfully positioned himself that now it is my government. If I suffered under Van der Poel and the rest, now my Nana has come. And Ghanaians were so much worried about it. Sure. So they wanted a Joshua or a Moses from somewhere. So whatever has happened, that's why people queue up there. They wanted to see the video and see whether, and seeing our own honorable man sitting in a corner trying to draft MOU, I mean, it wasn't the
all
best
right. So that's lawyer speaking with us, lawyer John Kwesi speaking about the issues. Also, Selassie Adika, I'll come to you. He wants to make a point. But we've taken a Nigerian perspective on the issues because this issue is truly African in nature. Anas's work, as you may know, portions of it were shown on the BBC World Service yesterday. That one highlighted a more continental approach because some referees from some of the other African countries were identified and seen as or outed in terms of when they were taking bribes as low as $600 and so on. One of them was a Kenyan ref. This Kenyan referee, next week by this time, he would actually have been at the FIFA World Cup as an assistant referee. But now he has had to stop because he was shown in the video collecting $600 in bribes to ref a match in somebody's favor. Let's go to Kenya. To Maurice Kiruga, who is a Kenyan investigative journalist. He brings us that perspective. Hello, Maurice. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Hi, guys.
Yes. So tell us, what is the name of this ref, and what's the reaction to him being seen on video on the BBC World Service last night?
All right. So I'll start with the reaction. And I'm so glad you said this is an African story because you wouldn't be surprised that the biggest surprise is that the bribe was so low.
Please take that again.
I'm saying, like, you wouldn't be surprised that the actual mostly negative public reaction is about the size of the bribe. Like,
$600.
He lost that for $600 when he was making $200,000. But it's come at a time when we're grappling with Aden Mara. His name is Aden Mara.
Yeah, Aden Mara.
Yeah. Aden Mara. He's a school teacher, and on the side,
teaches chemistry and mathematics.
Rep, yeah?
Teaches chemistry and mathematics.
Yeah?
Yeah, he does.
Yes, he does. So the story has come out at a time when our national news is dominated by the news of government corruption, mega government corruption, where, like, one of the stories was about $9 million.
Oh.
Another one was at about $90 billion. This has been a back-to-back period in our history, which is usually the African story where, one scandal, then another one to cover it up, and they're everywhere. So his story has just come in of meh, like, okay, we're already traumatized by the government. So what is a single man out there taking a 600 bribe to us? But again, I think this is the problem because we seem to separate these two events, yet they are very related. Because he's representing Kenya. He did it in 2014, and he was meant to do this event for Africa. And he was getting paid, I don't know what, was it 20, 30 times that, his actual salary?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was about about 2.5 million Kenyan shillings should be about $250,000, I think.
Wow.
Or $25,000.
25.
I think
It's
that's,
25.
yeah.
25. It's take out 3.
Yeah, and yet he still lost his gig and embarrassed his country and the continent for just a 600 bob bribe. But then again, you know, it's how do we manage to separate this mega corruption at the government level, but, you know, not really forgive, or condemn rather, not condemn a guy taking a 600 bob bribe, because it's the way they say it permeates down, that, you know, when you pay a policeman a bribe, then it's the same way as when a politician is stealing, it's still corruption and should be regarded the same. But yeah, so it's been very meh, really, just, you know, yeah, why did he sell out for such little money, which is a sign of the trauma we're suffering as a continent, as a people, mostly.
Yeah.
But,
Moses, I mean, Morris, you've given us the reaction, but, you know, how have people taken the news that a week from now, this man would have been in Russia, you know, in the biggest football competition in the world. He would have been officiating at the World Cup. And not just that, he would have been getting about $2,000 per game and a $25,000 appearance fee for just coming at the World Cup. I mean, you know, it's such a huge loss for himself, isn't it?
It is, and it is for the country too, because we're not at the World Cup, so you can imagine this was our
he was
way
going to represent Kenya at the World Cup.
Yeah, so this was our way in, and then this happened. So there's a lot of disappointment, of course, especially among ardent football fans. But then there is a sign of what is emblematic of our society, that corruption is just there, you know, and unless you're caught outside the country, if you're caught inside, it's just a slap on the wrist. So even for him, you know, guys will say, of course he won't be fired because it's just a little corruption. It's just, and, you know, it's a crime. He committed a crime. He actually committed a crime.
Sure.
An economic crime.
Morris, again, before I let you go, a key issue here in Ghana about this documentary that has shaken the foundations of our football is the mode the journalist used to get all the information he did. Have you had a section of the Kenyan media or Kenyan populace saying that, yes, he may have been corrupt, but are they questioning the methods of Anas, as some people have said that he entrapped this official?
You know, that goes back into the ethics of the work Anas and I do, pretty much. Of
you are investigating.
When do you cross the line? Number one is we're not lawyers, so we're not bound by fruits of the poison tree kind of rules. I personally have a problem, well, personally and professionally have a problem with baiting. But at the same time, I see the need of the work we do to expose this kind of things, because the justification most of us use is they'll have done it anyway. It's just that we caught them on camera, or we caught them, or we recorded them, or something.
Sure.
But it needs to be done in our continent. It's dangerous to be an investigative journalist, not just from the government, but also from the private sector, from individuals. And then we're doing really important work. These stories need to be told. So although I disagree with the method specifically, I'm okay. I'm okay with the outcome. We have gotten a corrupt Kenyan from the world stage.
Morris, would you say, and one person that I know has said that the method Anas uses is a peculiar method for a peculiar continent. If he wants to go the conventional way, he will never be able to nab, you know, the people who are corrupt in the act, because they are too smart and they know the system so much, they are so powerful that Anas needs to use radical methods to root out radical corruption. What do you think?
I fully agree, actually. You know, the same way that they say that policemen can, you know, bait you and or arrest you with intent to sell or something.
Sure.
It's the same thing. This job that Anas does is very dangerous, number one. Number two, it really goes into the heart, the true heart of Ghana, for example. It goes into the true heart of what people do when doors are closed and they've been offered a briefcase of money.
Sure.
It goes right there. So it is. This continent can't be. You know, we're not, because Ghana and Kenya were colonized by the British, and so for some odd reason we've become very proper Africans who believe in the rules, even for people who are breaking them. And we're not adversarial, and I think we need to get adversarial, because our laxity with being adversarial, especially on public corruption and even private sector corruption and even individual corruption, is that we're letting them go. we're really, really letting them go. We're really not telling these stories and not telling society that this is actually what is happening, which I think is the power of the work that ANAS does. That we need to show people this is exactly where you live, because sometimes we forget.
Boris, I'll come to you briefly. Let me come to the studio. Selassie, your thoughts on that? I mean, from a legal point of view, I mean, there's going to be an almighty battle forever and ever about the method that, but we understand that there are two types of investigative journalism. The conventional one where I see somebody giving you a bribe, you taking it, and I catch both of you. And then the other one, which is deceptive investigative journalism that he does, that a lot of people seem to have a problem with. What do you think about what Boris has said?
I think the methodology raises two issues.
Sure.
It raises an ethical issue and it raises an evidentiary issue. And if my senior here would agree with me, is that, and he did mention something about the fruit of the poisonous tree.
Yeah.
We don't have that in Ghana. Ghana, the law simply states that it matters not the way the evidence was procured.
Oh, that's what the law says in Ghana.
When it comes to evidence.
They've just twisted it a bit with recent Supreme Court
decision.
But what they were trying to say is that if that's the normal one is there,
sure,
okay, that it matters not. But then at a point in time, it is the discretion of the court, okay, to either see whether they should accept it in evidence.
Admissible.
Because they say if you use wrong means, you are not supposed to be entertained in court.
Sure.
But then the latest ruling is that whether foul means or whatever, the judge should use the second approach and see whether they should still admit
discretion. Okay,
Selassie.
So that is if there's a challenge domestically to his methodology. And there's actually a very good write-up by a lawyer, I think his name is something dodgy. I'll send it to you. Where he because this issue, you know, I said it presents an evidentiary issue which has a root in the right to privacy in our constitution.
Sure.
And if you look at our constitution, the right to privacy is not absolute.
Yeah.
It has parameters. One of them is I think the discovery of crime, and then public interest. So we see right there and then that our constitution is, you know, even the right to privacy in our constitution is not absolute. And so it is those parameters that have been broken down by our apex court. But more importantly, and I think this is where I think this is about, this is about football politics.
Yeah.
And so, and we see from what FIFA has just done, so we need to look at whether this methodology would hold up, you know, when it is tested. In that regard. So, and it is important to note that the Court of Arbitration for Sport has dealt with this particular issue. And the law is that although they frown on the use of deception, they've also carved out an exception for when there's public interest, particularly the discovery of corruption. And they have ruled that bribery in football jurisprudence, bribery, match fixing are always a matter of public interest.
Fantastic.
So let me just clarify. In the interest of what we're discussing, you mentioned the deceptive aspect that is also endorsed. The point is that the deception should be used advisedly.
Sure.
Are you getting? Let me cite the instance of Anas going to work at the children's home. He went under deception. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
Or going to
psychiatric hospital
that he was a patient. But at the end of the day, you see, it didn't affect anybody, so to speak.
Sure.
Are you getting it?
Sure.
That is the kind of deception that is being endorsed.
Yeah.
But not the deceptive aspect that you are sitting here somewhere, not thinking about anything, bribery or corruption.
And then I come and
then our nurse will come and say, oh, Jack, this is okay, take this. I say, I won't take. Then say, oh, take. I won't take. For the third time, I will know and I assume that genuinely it's coming from your heart.
Sure.
Are you getting it? So will you continue to pester and deceive me for your benefit and later come and display me in public?
Sure.
I don't think that is ethical enough and it's something we shouldn't entertain.
Okay. All right, Morris, before you go, Morris Kiruga is joining us from Kenya. You've heard our perspectives here as well. But for investigative journalism, how big a victory has Anas chalked for people in your niche of the profession around Africa?
A fantastic one, actually. I think first I'll just say something quick about what the other panelists said. I fully agree that, if it's in the public interest, it needs to be done. And one of the things we need to remember is what exactly investigative journalism does. And it's to the public interest, about the public and all these things. So we know that we might have a little of ethical issues with pestering someone, for example. We are all built very different psychologically. We might have a problem with that. And it is expected that if you're in this work, with this line of work, that you remember that you're doing this for the public interest and also for the good of the people talking to you, for the same reason why we take care of our sources and all that. But once your work is done and you're sure it's okay, then it's up to the relevant authorities, FIFA, GFA, whatever, everyone to just do their work. You've just told a story. You're a town crier, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, please remind me what your question was.
Yeah, so I was just saying that what kind of victory has Anas chalked for investigative journalists in Africa? Has he increased the profile? And if you can tell us what journalists around Africa like you, how do you see Anas when you look at what he has been able to do?
First of all, Anas is, how would I say, a first among equals?
First among equals, wow.
Yes, a first among equals.
Primus inter pares.
He's really... Yeah, his groundbreaking work, his perspective, because one of the things that, for example, I went into investigative journalism is that I find our obsession as journalists with the political stories of the day very distracting from the actual public interest. Even Bast, for example, as one did here, are you telling the story of whichever private sector this was and all that? And I think he's reminding us of a phase we seem to have forgotten lately. It's happening here too. One of our best investigative journalists is now a member of parliament.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, and it's been happening across the region. If you're not being killed or jailed, you're quiet. You're just, you're promoted to an editor and now you don't talk anymore. And I think Anas is reminding us that, for example, public corruption or private corruption that we also need to be focusing on. It's not just our grand corruption. For example, like here, we've become numb to numbers. So when you tell us $90 million has been stolen, we're like, that's less than the other guy. But it's also reminding us, he reminds us with these stories that the actual story, this country has fewer politicians than Africans. Or rather, this entire continent has fewer politicians than Africans. And these things are affecting us, and these politicians come from us, and we are corrupt. And it is your teacher, your chemistry and mathematics teacher. I think this one has been a gentle reminder that there is a lot of work to do. It's dangerous. It crosses, or rather it runs along the ethical line. It's divisive. It's all those things. It's expensive. But it's just a reminder of why journalism has always been about this. Anything else is public relations.
Everything else is public relations, he says. Many thanks, Maurice Karugi. What's the name of the journalist who has become, the investigative journalist who has become an MP again? Is it Mohammed Ali?
Mohammed Ali.
Mohammed Ali, yeah. He was named the 2017 Best Investigative Journalist or so in Kenya, I believe.
Yes. He did some really groundbreaking work.
He did. And he's now an MP. So can he now report on anything?
Well, no, he can't. So he doesn't work for a station. So now that's it. Now he's a politician. So he's just... it's like he got disillusioned with the work, really, because that entire thinking in that, for example, among the, I think two of the panelists, the legal system, and I agree, we investigative journalists need a lot of legal advice when we're doing these stories. Yeah. But at the same time, we're not building this evidence to take it to court. That's somebody else's work completely. But we're just doing this to tell this story, and we have ways of knowing whether they're legit, ways of checking our sources. We try to do it, and if security agencies were to ask us for these things, we would give it to them. Not get punished. Now, if you do that, you're going to get punished, or you're going to be, or that. Yeah, but I think this is a big win Anas has done for the continent. We need a lot more wins.
Right. Thank you, Maurice. It's been phenomenal talking to you to give us the perspective from that side.
All right.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
You too.
Okay. Take care. And this is the Pulse on the Joy News channel. It's a special edition where we are rinsing all the issues that have been the fallout of the Anas Aremeyaw Anas documentary. And just a reminder of what has been trending. If we can see the statement briefly. Again, the Federation of International Football Associations, FIFA, has acted. They have slapped a 90-day ban on Kwesi Nyantakyi. So this was the statement. We also saw reaction from Kwabna Yeboah, the Sports Writers Association of Ghana president. We have gone to Nigeria to get the thoughts of a Nigerian journalist. He gave us a perspective of how Nigeria was banned in 2014, and it gives us an idea of how the government of Ghana can go about it. Also, we've had lawyers in studio to teach us about the various many legal dimensions to this issue. And of course, we've just heard from Maurice Kariuki of Kenya as well. Coming up, we'll be taking your Facebook comments. We'll be going to the streets to get your thoughts. And then the most important people affected by everything that's going on, the footballers, we have a package to play for you. This is the Pulse on JoyNews. Thank you for staying with us on the Pulse on JoyNews. I'm Gary Al Smith, and this is a special edition where we are talking about the GFA in crisis and other related matters. The most important stakeholders in football are players. Without players, there will be no game. FIFA will not be available. Nobody will be available. There will be club officials, but without the players who actually do the playing of the game, there is no need for any country to have a football structure. How does this affect them? We spoke to a couple.
Yeah, I could not watch the video, but I heard a lot about it. But what the dissolution of this thing, I think, is the right thing. Because when they do this, we are going to start from scratch. That time, all Ghanaians will put effort and watch it very well so that this thing will not happen again. To me, I think that is the best thing.
But you know that the dissolution of the GFA means that everything, all the activities, the suspension of the Ghana Premier League, everything about football is down.
Yeah, I know, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy to hear something like that, because even with this thing, we are not going anywhere. We don't see anything. So I think this is the right thing, so that we start afresh. And that this punishment is very good. We deserve it. So, to me, I think it's the right thing.
Okay, so the first person says it is the right thing to do. I'm seeing another person, but with the shirt, the Ghana Football Association. I don't know what his take is on with this particular one. But do you also think that dissolving the GFA is the surest way to deal with issues of this nature?
Well, actually, I'm speechless because I'm also a footballer. What is going on? I don't want to say anything, but we just have to give thanks to God what has happened, because we don't need to blame the president, we don't need to blame anybody. We just need to resolve everything and then we start everything. Because besides, I'm a footballer, I can't talk something and then get against the GFA because I don't know what is going to happen.
When you say you don't know what's going to happen, are you scared that when you say something bad about them, it's going to have some effect on your career?
No, not that, because I've traveled and then I've played football in South Africa before, so I know how it's going to work. But if you say we should start everything afresh, we don't have problem with that. So we all have to start everything afresh. But besides, I'm speechless. I don't want to talk far. I don't want to go far. Besides, I'm wearing the Ghana football. This thing, we just finished training, so I don't want to talk anything against my career and my football. So that is why I have to end it here.
I have one more person here who is wearing an Arsenal shirt. You don't want to talk, you just want to give support to him. But let me just find out from you also. Do you think that dissolving this GFA, I see that, you know, a lot of footballers, brilliant footballers are on this park who are training hard to get to the highest level. Do you think that dissolving the GFA and bringing it down is going to have some impact on even those playing on this pitch this early morning?
Yes, this thing will rather give them the opportunity. Most of them know how to play the ball, but they don't have the money, so that they will push them this kind of bribery thing. So what happened is going to give them the opportunity, and we are going to have more quality players and better players than before. So to me, I'm very, very happy, and I support what is happening right now.
But do you think that we wouldn't even experience something like this in the next future? Because I mean, when the GFA started, I'm sure they also started with vibrant people who were not interested in corruption. But along the line, maybe things went wrong. Don't you think that there's a day that would come that will probably experience something of this nature?
No, I'm not. I don't have confidence in them. They are human beings. But even if it's going to happen, it's not going to be like what is happening right now. You see, it will be something, you know, it will happen, but not much as this, because this thing has even, I don't know, I'm even ashamed of myself. So I think it's the right thing.
All right, so you realize that most of them do not even want to talk because they expressed their dissatisfaction and how hurt they were after they heard excerpts of this NAS number 12 video or expose. Now, most of them are excited that the GFA has been dissolved. They think that it's a new dawn and is supposed to bring out.
So those were footballers, and very interesting. Some of them are afraid for their careers, so not wanting to speak against the Ghana Football Association, even though they have their own opinions. Let's go to Facebook and social media. Let's see what you are saying. Desmond Cyril says about Kwesi Nyantakyi's ban, about his 90-day ban. He should not even be allowed to watch the World Cup home on TV and never to watch a four-poles football played by kids. Isaac Ghani says, so even small poles cry, you know feed and touch. Asem Abba, FIFA, please add the watching part. He should not watch anything related to football. Even if there's a little in Kumkum Bagia cry, he should be able to turn his face. He should not watch that part. Raymond Manuel Menye says, just 90 days. If you still meet for market area, how many years them they jail? FIFA crime must be investigated. Richard Bauer says, just 90 days, pay. I wish it was for life. Wickedness, a player runs up and down for 90 plus minutes under this scorching sun, and you sit in your air-conditioned room and create a company to dupe them 25% of their sponsorship. Who gives $65,000 as a gift and you were happy bargain it? Have you ever given your local player 1 CD as a gift before? Ebufu Sem. Eugene Atechi says, FIFA will now investigate, and if found guilty, the thief will go for life. The Don, the mafia boss, will be gone for good. Joshua Atta says, okay, normal, if you're a corrupt person, now use this for repentance. What I'm thinking now, Kwesi didn't do anything bad to himself, so the family of Kwesi, well, sorry, I can't understand that. Nananye says it should be forever. He should even be banned for playing football with his children at home. That last part is not something we endorse. Right, more messages. Michael Fifi Holger says, when you exchange money for integrity, life is like climbing a ladder. The higher you reach, the more dangerous it becomes when you fall. Right, so Selassie, it's been an edifying discussion. Lots has gone on. What do you think we should be looking at going forward? Just to wrap up the discussion.
I think I envision that the government of the day is going to lay back on its communication to dissolve. I see FIFA coming in because remember, the FA has its own ethics committee, and some of the conduct that we saw on the video are violative of its own ethics code, which confers jurisdiction on them. So what leaves to be seen is, what is left to be seen is whether FIFA is going to take the whole case, and it looks like they're already investigating the case. Sure. Whether they're going to take the whole case or they would look at it at a point and send it back. And I think the problem everyone has is that based on the perception of how much control our FA president has over its membership and the voting bloc and the internal politics, were they going to be able to do the right inquisition? And so I think I think FIFA is going to come in, and a normalization committee is going to be formed, and we will be forced to deal with these issues ourselves, because we have to remember that we are growing. We're only 60 plus years old. So whatever has happened here is an opportunity for us to grow. This would have never happened if we didn't have someone rise to that level in football administration. So I think the future is very bright for Ghana football. We all have a role to play to educate the public, because as you've seen now, this is a heavy regulated area, and if you're not careful, you're going to run into trouble. It should be a wake-up call for every football administrator in this country, because ethics is a serious issue when it comes to football.
Yeah.
By the time you are charged or you are being investigated for a criminal offense, chances are you have breached the FIFA ethics code.
Rules. Just final statements from you, lawyer.
I think the point of my interest is that at least let's appreciate whoever has played a role in this. This is the wish of many Ghanaians, and then we should just respect whatever has happened. This is not a time for us to be too bookish and too legal about the situation. Whichever way, whether legal or illegal, what is the end result? What do we seek to achieve? At the end of the day, I have said and stated here that the ground norm is brought down. We need new reforms, we need new regime, everything all together, because it doesn't only affect the National Football Association. It goes all the way from the video. There were indications that at the regional level, it even goes all the way to Mr. Lawa at Eastern Region, 3rd Division, and so on and so forth. You understand? So that is why I welcome, and then many Ghanaians also welcome the government's intervention. So moving forward, before we leave here, through your good outfit, let's pass on the message to government that we should desist from using the word dissolution. And then rather government intervention. Okay.
Right, thanks guys, I appreciate it. And just to give an update, the Ghana Football Association Executive Committee, we understand, are still meeting. There's been no official statement yet, but we expect that there will be a statement, especially Kwesi Nyantakyi, who we understand will want to tell something like his side of the story, you know, just so that it balances the equation. We do not know what happens in terms of the structure of the GFA, because remember, Kwesi Nyantakyi sacked his vice president, George Afriyie. So the GFA, as we speak, does not have a vice president. Now, the question is, now that FIFA has taken him off the position, he does not officially have a position as president of the GFA. Pardon?
Even if the
yes, even if the government comes in, he's not the president of the GFA as we speak, because he's been taken off football activities. So right now, the GFA does not have a president. It does not have a vice president who is going to be in charge. So there's a power vacuum. There are matches that are going to be played because the government has not dissolved the GFA. Who is going to take care of the GFA? Normally, you would expect that the General Secretary of the Ghana Football Association will be taking charge. But does he have enough authority to take, yes, the day-to-day decision? And the answer to that is no. Because per the laws of the GFA, a lot of the serious decisions have to be taken at a quorum, you know, which has to be led by either the GFA president or his vice. So right now, there's a serious power.
For the government to step in.
This is the best time for government to step in, like the lawyer says. It's going to be interesting days yet, and this is where we bring our discussion to an end. Lawyer Selassie Adika is a sports lawyer. Many thanks for your time. And also lawyer John Kwesi, we appreciate your time as well. He's the General Secretary of the Coaches Association of Ghana. And to all of you who took part on Facebook and give us your comments through other...
Please congratulate the coaches for me, because no coach was mentioned in the video.
Okay.
The coaches of Ghana have done well.
Yeah, he says no coaches of Ghana were seen in the video, so congratulations to all of you. My name is Gary L. Smith. This has been a special edition of The Pulse. Thank you for watching, and normal service resumes on Monday. Bye-bye.